Draven out.
We charge cancellation fee.
What must be done?
All right, and welcome to Blaine Esports' second week of League of Legends gameplay. This week we are playing against Roseville Area High School. I am Spades commentating today's match, coach of Blaine Esports League of Legends team. As you can kind of see on your screen, draft has already been completed. On the blue side, we have Roseville with Mordekaiser, Ornn, Anivia, Caitlyn, and Zyra. And on the red side, we have Blaine that has Cho'Gath, Kayn, Kennen, Vayne, and Braum. So a bit of some wacky team comps that you don't necessarily normally see all the time, but it should make for an interesting game. If you're just looking at these kind of pen and paper and how these kind of matchups line up, Mordekaiser kind of beats Cho'Gath up for most of the game until Cho'Gath gets a whole bunch of stacks and gets a lot of his HP from that ultimate feast. Jungle, Kayn should clear his jungle a lot faster than Ornn does. Ornn does have the benefit of eventually becoming, really tanky off of those Ornn items and providing that team utility. So we'll kind of see if Kayn can kind of get his feet wet a little bit early in this game to help impact the early game. Next in the mid lane, you have Kennen versus Anivia, a not so common matchup. But I would imagine early game, Anivia has the push in the lane, and Kennen will have better all-in, as well as it's kind of a skill-based matchup based on how Kennen can use his E movement speed to try to dodge the Anivia stuns. And then bot lane, for most of the early game, I would expect Caitlyn and Zyra to kind of push Vayne and Braum in and have them, not have such a great time and play under tower for most of the early game, until either Kennen or Kayn can kind of roam down to help them in the bottom lane. But all things considered, these two team comps there should be a lot of action in almost every lane, I would imagine. And it should make for an exciting game. So far, Blaine is 1-0 in MNVL's League of Legends Club series. They won their first game last week. And this week we're hoping to come into it week 2 with hopefully another victory for Blaine to have us start off the season at a very strong start. So with about a minute left, we're just waiting for that spectator delay to kick in, and we will jump right into both of these teams kind of going head to head and seeing who can come out on top. I would expect a lot of the early Drakes to go to the side of Roseville in general. They have, with that bot lane priority from the Caitlyn and Zyra, it'll make it very difficult for the Vayne and Braum to kind of be able to contest the pushing wave in order for them to, have access to that early dragon. But we'll see. This is kind of, speculating, and you can never be sure about those kinds of things. Sometimes, weird things happen, like early first bloods or, early jungle pathing that can change matchups that, doesn't necessarily normally happen. But I would expect that would be where a lot of the focus is, at least at the beginning of the game. So without further ado, here we go. as we are loading in here, we can look at some of those summoner choices that the players have decided to take. It looks like the Mordekaiser has opted for the Conqueror, which is pretty stock standard. Ornn does have a little bit interesting. Instead of having Flash, he does have the Ghost, and he also has Aftershock. So a bit of a not so normal runes to have in this instance. Anivia has the sort of stock standard Electrocute. Caitlyn also has the Lethal Tempo, as well as the Cleanse. And Zyra has the Airy with the Ignite. So pretty stock standard from Roseville's side. And on Blaine's side, Cho'Gath does have the Grasp, which is pretty standard. Kayn has the Conqueror, looking for some of those longer fights. I would expect, based on these comps, that Kayn will be opting for that red form. But there is a world, if he does get very involved with the bot lanes early, that he could go blue form. Another bit of an interesting take is Kennen having the first strike. We'll see how much value he can get out of that in this game. And then you have Vayne with Lethal Tempo as well. And finally, Braum with the Guardian. So I would expect the Cleanse to be mostly used on the Braum stun in the early to mid game. Otherwise, it can also be used on the Kennen ult, as we have an error screen popping up. Bit of an issue with the client, technical difficulties. Perfect. And we're back. Apologize for the technical difficulties, but I do believe that we have fixed it for the most part. As we are just loading into game. Bit of a weird setup with the tournament realm with connecting to the game, so hopefully we can get back into the gameplay as quick as possible. I have not seen this happen before. In all of the games that I've spectated, the client bugging out like this is very bizarre. Kind of just waiting. Hopefully the client can catch back up and fix itself so we can watch some of this game. There has been different bugs in the past and such for spectating, so hopefully this is not one of those. This is a very bizarre bug. I have never seen this before. All right, and I believe we are back. We had a few technical difficulties, had to restructure how we were going to stream it, but I do believe that we have it all figured out. So, a little bit of live action. Kane was able to gank that top lane matchup in the early stages of the game and get that kill for himself. Gave a bit of a CS lead as well to Dale on getting that Kayn accelerated definitely feels nice for the early game. Bot lane has kind of been as anticipated. Caitlyn and the Zyra have pushed Vayne in for quite a bit of this early game and gotten a pretty sizable CS lead for themselves. That first dragon has not been started yet, but as you can see, but based on the team's gold on the top, it is fairly close. Blaine technically up by a few hundred gold, but it is more or less an even game state so far. Now, as Blaine's bot lane pushes in to the Caitlyn and Zyra for the first time in this game, it looks like they're gonna stay in lane. Kayn is looking to gank that top lane matchup once again, but decides the better of it based on the position. Or he may be looking for, I lied, he looks like he may be looking for another angle through the wall. The fun part of playing Kayn. Walls are no obstacle, but he chooses not to. He just walks up as Mordekaiser blows that ultimate on the Cho'Gath. As they gank him, Mordekaiser misses the Q, and it is a feast. That is a stack for the Cho'Gath. So Kayn has done a great job in impacting that top lane matchup so far. Both him and Cho'Gath picking up a kill. On the bot side, however, they will trade it for the first dragon, as Ornn and his Zyra ends up picking that up for Roosevelt. As Kennen burns that ultimate mid lane to try to take down the Anivia, which it looks like, oh no! By the skin of his teeth! He doesn't die! That is so unfortunate. Oh no, as Kayn flashes in with the ghost. It is... a bit of a tragedy. So now we have a more or less even game that was in Blaine's favor, but after that 2v2 mid kill, it was a bit unfortunate for Blaine, as Anivia now is 1-0-1 with quite a bit of a CS lead on Kennen. However, it looks like Kennen will end up picking up a few of these waves to hopefully try to neutralize it a little bit. So from Blaine's perspective, definitely have Cho'Gath on his feet, but I would like to see some sort of play towards the bot side to try to break down this pressure that the Caitlyn and Zyra have been using in this lane. That will mostly be on Kayn to do that. However, it could be from Kennen roams as well, as this mid lane matchup now is definitely getting a lot more difficult for the Kennen, as you saw with that electrocute trade. Kennen taking about, half his life, or maybe even a little more in one of those trades from Anivia. As Mordekaiser blows his ultimate here on Cho'Gath again in the top lane. However, it does look like... oh, at the same time, Kayn is trying to gank bottom lane. As Vayne flashes forward, Zyra, however, does end up killing Kayn as he overforced a little bit. As Caitlyn is also running forward with a flash Q, and it is a tragedy for Blaine, as they end up getting 2v3'd by the Roosevelt bot lane. They're getting a ton of plates for this, as well as denying quite a bit of those minions from the tower, killing them. Now you see quite a sizable gold lead for Roosevelt at about 17k to the 14k. Ornn is now looking for that top lane gank. Cho'Gath flashes to try to avoid it, as he ends up dying to the gank anyways, unfortunately. So things kind of falling apart in every area for Blaine, unfortunately. In the early spots of this game, we were looking pretty good, but they have made quite a few positive plays for themselves. as now a bit of a lull in the game. The only real objective up is that Rift Herald in the top lane. Anivia continues to push these waves into Kennen, forcing him to back in awkward positions and continuing to gain a bit of a CS lead over him. This Cho'Gath clears out some vision, and Rosemount pushes into this bot lane turret once again. This turret is 20% life or less. Pretty quickly should be getting taken down here, as it looks like the Rift Herald has been started up by Kayn in the top side. Kayn kind of hoping he can sneak this Herald as Anivia spots him. This is not a very good spot for Kayn to be in, as he's going to take quite a bit of damage. As Kennen comes in, however, blows his ultimate. We will see if they can kill Anivia in that amount of time, as Anivia respawns again, unfortunately. But Kennen does end up picking that shutdown up, as Blaine's bot lane gets all-in'd by Caitlyn and Zyra once again. The fight's still happening on that top side Rift Herald. A feast stack for the Cho'Gath as Blaine starts to take back this fight. Stun comes in from and he is not able to steal it, as Ornn ends up securing it with that smite. Ends up wall walking and leading the team on a chase throughout their own jungle. As Kennen uses that ultimate to try to aggressively trade into Anivia, but it is not quite enough burst to take him down. Caitlyn ends up picking up another kill, being 5-0-1 at this point. His Caitlyn is truly a menace on the map at the moment. So we will see what kind of plays Blaine can come up with to try to come back in this game. It is a solid 28,000 gold to 22,000 gold, a 6,000 gold lead at the moment. But now with all objectives down, the only major objective for this Caitlyn to take is that top lane tier 1 turret. So I'd expect her to recall, and well, maybe not. She decides to path down. Ooh, she's not necessarily sure where she's going. looks like going mid lane now to pick up those waves. As Anivia and Kennen have now shifted down to the bottom lane to continue their 1v1. As Kennen ends up getting stunned, and that is that power of this very strong Anivia. Kennen gets one shot in the 1v1. Kayn looking for a flank on the bot lane here, but is not really able to find an angle. As Anivia ends up soloing Blaine's blue buff. Ornn looks for the ult on the mid lane, but he is not able to connect. As this Cho'Gath has been stacking quite a lot of HP in the top lane, you can see just how much HP he has at this point. Quite impossible to kill for the Mordekaiser at the moment. As they now begin to siege the tier 2 mid lane. That turret ends up going down. This game is kind of snowballing out of Blaine's control. Not much they can do about it. They don't necessarily have a ton of wave clear to be able to stop this. As Kennen flashes in for the big play. Braum gets a good ultimate. Kayn ends up picking off the Zyra. However, Kayn does end up falling. However, Cho'Gath is here. We'll see what he can do. Although it is looking like not much. As this Caitlyn is just too strong for Blaine to handle at the moment. Blaine kind of being pushed away. As now this mid inhib is getting focused quite early into the game. An 18-minute inhib from the looks of it. Which an early inhib does give Blaine kind of some time to think. Vayne is quite good at clearing those super minions, so if they are able to stave off the push, this can be a lot of gold being funneled into Blaine's pockets. However, they are continuing to push the pace of the game with now the Rift Herald being taken. We'll see if Kayn attempts to go for the steal again, as it looks like he might. And he does get it this time. An objective bounty has been claimed for Blaine. Not too bad, all things considered. As Cho'Gath looks to maybe get a little cheeky here and get the Rift Herald. However, it looks like he may end up just going down, as he does also get the shutdown for Caitlyn, so that's pretty worth. That's 1,000 gold into the Cho'Gath's pockets. Quite good, as Kennen is now looking for a one-shot onto the Zyra, as he does end up getting that as well. Two pretty key picks for Blaine, hopefully allowing them to find some foothold back into the game. Mordekaiser continuing to do what Mordekaiser does best and split push for the entire game. As Kennen looks to kind of deny him some of this turret damage. Flash coming out from Mordekaiser to avoid the Kennen stun. As now it looks like the focus is being turned to this third dragon. It is a Cloud Dragon, gives some nice movement speed to the entire team. As Rosemount moves towards it. Looks like they are starting it up. Almost. Kayn looking, seeing if they have started it yet. Getting some information. Find out that they have not. However, he can see on the scuttle that they are taking it. Although I think he is a little too late, as they have too much damage, and that is the third dragon going down to Rosemount. They all run back mid, trying to leverage this super minion wave. into getting potentially more of an advantage. As Cho'Gath falls. A good shield from the Braum on the Ornn ultimate. Denying the engage. Kennen kind of looking for a way to get onto the backline at the moment with no flash. It is quite difficult for him to find that solo angle. Almost he chunks out the Zyra, not quite enough damage to kill her. They are sieging the Nexus turrets now. As Kennen blows the ultimate. Vayne going in. Vayne does end up getting 2 kills here. Ooh, gets stunned. He is invisible, but that is his life being taken away by the Anivia. As Cho'Gath ends up standing in the Anivia ultimate. A shutdown for Kayn. As Blaine ends up repelling their siege. Very nice. We've got a bit of a game on our hands. Quite a bit of shutdowns going over to Blaine's side. We will see what they can do with those. That extra influx of gold. Cho'Gath ends up going back top, picking up this top wave. I would expect the next fight to be happening over Baron. As you can see both Caitlyn and Zyra coming out of base towards that Baron objective. Everybody kind of finally getting back into position after the great siege down mid. Looking to potentially make a pick on Cho'Gath, as Cho'Gath is kind of up here all by his lonesome. Taking the turret for himself. As Cho'Gath does end up getting Mordekaiser ulted and taken down. Blaine kind of right now looks to be going for some of those objective bounties. Cho'Gath did trade his life for that top turret. That is an objective bounty for his team. However, it does look like Rosemount will secure Baron Nashor. As they continue to push forward now with Baron, I expect it to be quite difficult for Blaine to be able to repel this push. Kennen does end up getting a turret in the bot side for himself and for the bounty for his team. However, they are just kind of running it down mid and saying to Blaine, alright, stop us if you can. Kayn goes in. Zyra uses her ultimate to peel. Kayn does land a pretty meaningful R onto the Anivia. They do end up getting the kill onto Caitlyn. Vayne also ends up getting a kill as well. As that is a teamfight win for Blaine with their backs against the wall. They have repelled them once again. Mordekaiser continues to work on that top turret. Cho'Gath finally able, after repelling the push, to be able to come up here and kind of stop the siege on that top turret. As now the next objective up being that next Cloud Drake. Soul point for Roosevelt. Or Rosemount, I apologize. Vayne looks like she wants to take that mid Tier 1 turret for the bounty on it, as Cho'Gath ends up scrapping with Mordekaiser in the top lane. Kennen also scrapping with the Zyra near Dragon. As I now expect that top turret to go down, Cho'Gath most likely will base and potentially TP for the Dragon. As it looks like this dragon may just go the way of Rosemount. Kayn goes in, but he is not able to steal the dragon, unfortunately. So that is... Woo! That is Cloud Soul for Rosemount. As Cho'Gath also falls after TPing to try to help Kayn. And this may just spell the end of the game. Kennen looking to find a flank onto the backliners, but he is quickly discovered. Not able to find the angle. As Ornn eases forward, Kennen flashes away. Quite low. As Vayne looks to go all in on Caitlyn, gets her quite low, but is not able to take her down. Kennen gets a ultimate, pulled forward by the Mordekaiser, does end up stunning the Caitlyn, but is not quite able to get any of the kills. As it looks like this may just end up being the end of Game 1. Rosemount does end up winning Game 1. So that being said, we will have a short break, and then we will be right back with you for Game 2. So don't change that channel, change that web tab. We will be right back with Game 2. Thank you very much, and I appreciate everyone watching so far, and hopefully we can get another exciting Game 2.
the streets are empty, that's where we run. Everyday people do everyday things, but I can't be one of them. I know you hear me now, we are a different kind. We can do anything, we could be heroes. We could be heroes. We could be heroes. Me and you.
You used to be.
I do not tolerate cowardice.
Shall I turn in my badge and rifle as well?
I shall lead.
Recharge cancellation fee. Back to the board.
The weak fear the shadows.
Fear controls them.
The ball is angry.
All right. And I am back. We are here and ready to go for game 2 of Blaine versus RHS. Excited for the second game of this series. Game 1 definitely was a bit dominant from RHS, but we have two different drafts here for game 2. The only similarity being that Cho'Gath and Mordekaiser, that matchup being the same. Other than that, I think, yeah, everyone else is playing a completely different champion. So for Blaine, we have Cho'Gath top, Nocturne jungle, Ahri mid, Tristana AD carry, and Pyke support. And on the side of RHS, we have Mordekaiser top, Zac jungle, Viktor mid, Ezreal AD carry, and Yuumi support. So it should create some interesting dynamics in this game. Both of these junglers kind of full clear a lot in the early game, so I wouldn't necessarily expect a ton of early action, specifically for the junglers. This mid matchup, I believe, already has the push on Viktor early, and as soon as Viktor gets that E upgrade, he then can kind of force Ahri back within the lane. Bot lane, I do believe Tristana and Pyke should have the push, purely based on the fact that Tristana's passive does AoE damage to minions whenever she last hits creeps. So I would expect that they also have the push there in bottom lane, which should be different than the last game. That last game matchup was definitely difficult with the Vayne Braum into the Caitlyn Zyra. So hopefully this Tristana Pyke will have a little bit more power to leverage in the 2v2, just purely based on matchup alone. So I'd expect, again, just like last game, a lot of that action to be happening in this bottom lane. However, they are playing against Ezreal Yuumi, which does have the ability to play as one of the safest bot lanes in the entire game. So we'll see if they are able to find their opportunities for Blaine to capitalize on this Ezreal Yuumi, or if they will just kind of farm from range and we won't see very much action there. So that being said, we got about 30 seconds till we hop into game 2. I'm really interested to see how these junglers end up playing this early game. Last game, Nocturne, which was on the Kayn last game, went top after full clearing his jungle and ended up getting that first blood. And the Ornn decided to rather kind of farm it up and get some of that golden experience a little bit faster, hit that level 6 a little bit faster, and then leverage that into his later ganks. As we are now loading into game. We can check out some of those runes just like we did last game. Once we hit the loading screen. Boom, here we are. You have Cho'Gath with the Grasp once again. Nocturne with the Press the Attack. A bit more aggressive, but still kind of stock standard approach. Ahri with the Electrocute, as anticipated. Ahri does have the Ignite, as opposed to Victor's Teleport. Tristana does have that Lethal Tempo with the Exhaust this time. And the Pyke does have that Hail of Blades with that Ignite as well. On the other side, Ezreal Yuumi. Ezreal has that Cleanse plus that Press the Attack. And Yuumi has that Exhaust and Heal with that Summon Airy. Zac also having pretty stock standard Flash plus Aftershock. And Mord having, again, the same runes as last time with that Conqueror setup, expecting for those long trades. So based off these, I would expect, based off the summoner spells and the runes taken, I would definitely expect that Ezreal and Yuumi to just be playing safe for most of the lane, trying not to find all-ins, and for Blaine to be looking for those aggressive plays with that Ignite Exhaust, as well as Ahri having Ignite in the mid lane. As we are loading in here. So I expect the top lane matchup to go, since it is the same matchup, very similarly to last game, where Cho'Gath kind of gets pushed in quite a bit early game, and then later kind of out tanks Mordekaiser's damage. Mid lane again, kind of Ahri having the push for majority of the early game, where Victor then later has the opportunity to kind of contest the push again once his E evolves. And then bot lane, I would expect Tristana to have the push for the majority of the game. As it seems like we may have run into the same bug that we ran into last game. There's no way. I don't know how this bug occurs, but, bugs happen. We'll give it a second, see if it catches back up. We'll try resetting the clients and see if that helps with the bug that we have. So give us a second as we fix some of these technical difficulties. Zac, after not being able to find the mid gank, is now looking for the bot gank, potentially. Or maybe clearing his Gromp once it comes up. As a nice charm from Ahri, gets a nice trade onto the Victor. Ultimate comes in from Nocturne in order to get Victor's flash. Ignite comes down, and that is a kill for Toki on the Ahri in the mid lane. A very well played by the side of Blaine. Very strong start for them this game. Tristana continuing to work on this bot lane turret, hopefully being able to get some more turret platings for herself. As it also looks like Blaine has started up that Rift Herald on the top side. Cho'Gath and Nocturne kind of working together. As... I lied? Or did they... No, they did end up securing it. Nocturne does have the Rift Herald. Picks up some of his items and comes back onto the map. I would expect to see that Rift Herald being dropped either mid or bottom lane. Both of them, you know, trying to get that gold onto either carry. As it looks like Nocturne is pathing towards bot at the moment. A hook connecting onto the Ezreal. A cleanse flash from the Ezreal away from the hook. Flash is also blown mid by Ahri to avoid the Zac gank. As Ezreal continues to kind of play aggressively. Nocturne ends up taking his red buff. As Pyke ease forward into the Ezreal, igniting him. As I do end up getting that kill onto the Ezreal, and it is just Yuumi now, and a double kill for the Tristana. Very well played. Another big trade and another solo kill for Dale in this top lane matchup. So everything kind of going Blaine's way so far in this game. As they land a hook onto the Zac. Zac ends up blowing his ultimate, trying to get Pyke, as he does. A solid trade onto Victor in the mid lane as he uses his ultimate to clear the lane of all the creeps. The Rift Herald does end up getting used mid. As, very well played, Ahri does end up being able to get that kill onto Victor as well. Another turret plating going Cho'Gath's way in the top lane. This Cho'Gath should be big and tanky for a lot of these mid-game fights. As we now have a lull, I would expect the next action now to be happening around this second dragon, which it looks like Nocturne and the rest of Blaine have all kind of positioned for. Zac looks like he's recalling, however he decides the better of it and stays on the map, potentially looking to contest this second dragon. Yuumi throwing that crawling projectile, although she does end up missing. Zac jumping in, however Nocturne does end up securing the dragon. As Zac falls, his passive is now up. Victor trying to defend Zac's passive, but it is not good enough. Nocturne then uses his ult onto the Victor in the mid lane, looking for that fear to connect. Pyke eing forward, getting the stun, all of the skills connecting, and that is a kill for the Ahri. As again, top lane, we have a 1v1 between the Cho'Gath and that Mordekaiser. Still quite in Cho'Gath's favor. Another kill for Cho'Gath, as Ezreal eased forward with the Yuumi damage, and it does end up one-shotting Tristana. Quite a bit more damage than I think Tristana was anticipating. as a charm lands onto Zac in the mid lane. Quite a bit of damage. Toki doing really well on this Ahri this game. 3-0-1. Has that full Liandry's completed. Same scoreline for Dale on the top lane on Cho'Gath, 3-0-1, as now it looks like they are trying to make a play onto the Ezreal in the bot lane, as Ezreal does end up cleansing the fear from Nocturne, as they both end up walking away from the situation. Tristana is, however, back. Ahri is also here. Ezreal ends up getting charmed by Ahri. Tristana jumps in, gets the reset onto Ezreal. Everyone kind of looking for some skills, seeing what they can land on Zac, but none of their abilities are quite up again. Victor will, however, have some time here in the mid lane to work on this mid lane turret, so he should get a plating or two for staying mid. Zac potentially jumping back in bottom lane, as it looks like he wants the rest of this wave. Tristana picks up a turret plating for herself. As now it looks like Victor is also roaming down bot right now to potentially make a play on Blaine's bottom lane. Tristana jumping in, ends up getting that kill onto the Zac. The ultimate burned by Victor. And not a bad play from Tristana. 4v2, ends up trading 1-for-1 for his troubles. Ahri does end up pushing that mid wave in as well, as the top laners again are 1v1ing. Cho'Gath just so massively ahead at this point. There is not much that Mordekaiser can do. He can hit him with all of his skills, but Cho'Gath just takes no damage whatsoever. As this mid lane turret does look like it will fall for the way of Blaine. All in all, quite a bit better game for Blaine so far. A sizable 8k gold lead so far for them. 2 dragons as well, as they potentially begin to set up for Rift Herald number 2. Nocturne trying to steal that red. Although it does look like Zac does end up getting it. Continued aggression from Blaine, pushing into RHS's topside jungle. Ezreal does have that first major item completion with the Essence Reaver. A lot of those first major items coming in for everyone. That Moonstone for the Yuumi, the Ludens for the Victor, the Rylai's for the Mord, the Heartsteel for the Cho'Gath, Stridebreaker for the Nocturne, Liandry's again, as we talked about, for the Ahri, that Kraken Slayer for Tristana, and finally the... I always forget the name of this item, the ward clearing item for Pike. As it looks like now everyone is beginning to posture towards that bottom side, as this third dragon is respawning soon. The Rift Herald did end up getting secured by Blaine. Nocturne does have that once again. Pike finding another hook onto Ezreal. Although Zac is here and looking potentially to E in. But Cho'Gath, however, is also here, pushing them under turret. Nobody else on the map other than Mordekaiser has really seen Cho'Gath's wrath so far this game, so they're in for quite a surprise when they realize just how tanky he is. As Tristana ends up taking this bot lane turret. Tristana does end up jumping in, trying to kite away from Zac, using that lethal tempo, but it is not quite enough. However, Toki is here on the bot side as everyone is collapsing into this bottom lane play. Zac's passive does end up falling, and that is a double kill for the Ahri, as that would be a triple kill for the Ahri. 6-0-2 on this Ahri so far. As Cho'Gath appears with Victor. Victor casting all of his abilities on Cho'Gath's face, and Cho'Gath just really does not take very much damage. That dragon again secured for Blaine as well. That puts them on Soul Point. They take that bottom tier 2 tower with the Rift Herald. Potentially looking to get one more charge out of this Rift Herald bottom lane. Ezreal does end up E'ing into this Ahri. Flashing away, however, as he realized he overstayed his welcome a little bit. As now Blaine pushes headfirst into this mid lane. However, Victor does have that empowered E now, so he can kind of push and repel these waves pretty effectively. 16-4 now, 18 minutes into the game. Blaine with almost a 10k gold lead now. Quite a sizable lead. As two major items now picked up on both Cho'Gath and Ahri. Alongside that Heartsteel, Cho'Gath now also has that Sunfire Cape. Ahri also picking up that Shadow Flame as well. Quite a bit of damage now on that Ahri. I would expect that if a Charm connects, it should be a death for anyone outside of maybe Zac. As now Blaine kind of moves towards this top side, kind of getting ready for at 20 minutes when that Baron Nashor does end up spawning. Kind of just a waiting game for the next major objective. However, Cho'Gath is pushed quite a far in on the top side. However, he does have Ahri and Pyke here to try to defend him on this push. Ahri using quite a bit of damage, does end up getting that kill onto Zac, as Ahri kites out Mordekaiser in his death realm. Ahri gets out of there as Victor tries to kite away from everyone. Nocturne coming in, getting Victor's ultimate, as Nocturne does end up killing Victor. Blaine now beginning to siege this mid-inhib turret with that Demolish and Tristana. That turret goes down in an instant. As we went from one game where RHS was quite dominant into the next game where Blaine is quite dominant. Blaine potentially positioning to hit some of those Nexus turrets, but decides the better of it and backs off. Looks like they were potentially moving towards the Baron area. Could be a bit risky though, as most of Blaine's ultimates are down, as well as most everyone being at about half HP at the moment. But they decide to go for it anyways. They say we're strong enough. We'll fight them if they come. Yuumi does end up kind of walking through here all by her lonesome. Pyke catches her as Pyke just one-shots the Yuumi. Very nice. Blaine ends up securing the Baron. Everyone ends up taking a base. I would expect them all to come back onto the map looking for that soul point. Nocturne ends up picking some of these camps up, getting that additional gold in his pocket. Nothing much to do but wait for this next dragon to spawn, secure soul, and then start using that Baron buff to push. Ahri does end up ulting bottom lane to pick off the Ezreal. As now that next dragon is finally about to spawn, and it should be Blaine's for free unless Zac can get in there and steal it, but it does not look like he will even really attempt. As the dragon does end up getting secured for Blaine. Tristana with the bomb does end up blocking Zac's passive. Victor trying to control that area to defend him. Nocturne ulting in on top of the Victor. Tristana jumping in to kill the Zac. As now Blaine is kind of just waiting for this creep wave to come in so that they can start hitting the Nexus turrets. As Mordekaiser ends up ulting the Cho'Gath once again. This looks like there will be another inhib falling with one Nexus turret falling. We'll see if Blaine decides. It looks like they are backing up. They want to make sure that they can close out the game very cleanly. Pick up the blue buff. Everyone backs, spends all of their gold, and then I would expect everyone to go run top lane to end the game. Or to run it down mid. Either one will work. At this point, it'll take nothing less than a miracle for RHS to come back into this game. Toki having a monster performance on this Ahri this game. 9-0-3. Very dominant. Everyone on Blaine having quite a great game. As now they siege down mid. Looks like four of them are sieging mid with this super minion wave. They push the wave in, now they're moving towards top. Kind of waiting for everyone to get into position. As now they are pushing in mid again. Toki goes top, Ahri to push the wave. I expect they take this last inner turret. Zac here to kind of defend it. See what he can do. As Toki does connect to the charm, Zac flashes away, and the top lane turret does end up going down. As that mid inhib is respawning for RHS. Kind of waiting for a moment, Blaine kind of figuring out what they want to do next. Everyone coming back out onto the map once again. Kind of pushing in waves. Nothing really crazy happening at the moment. Blaine kind of pushing in the waves. RHS defending them. Posturing, looking for a potential fight. As Nocturne ults in, and that is Mordekaiser being one-shot. The next focus is that Zac. He does end up falling as well. Charm connecting onto the Victor, as he does end up falling to Toki. Great Charm connecting on top of the Yuumi as well. As Cho'Gath is just messing with Ezreal in the fountain. The second Nexus turret under fire, and now the Nexus also under fire. So this should be the end of the game. So a 1-1 week for Blaine League of Legends. Two very exciting games, one heavily dominated by RHS, the other dominated heavily by Blaine. And with that, that is Spades signing off. Thank you all for tuning in, and tune in next week for our Week 3 game. Thank you all for watching, and have a great